Hola a todos! In the higher tier GCSE Spanish writing paper, you will come across a translation question. This is worth 10 marks and it's question 1 for AQA and it's split into 5 sentences, and is question 3 for Edexcel and it's written as one long paragraph. Let's practice some of these using exam style questions. Vamos! So this is what the AQA question looks like, and it's similar enough for Edexcel. I'm going to first attempt this question with you guys and then we will talk about the mark scheme. So to get straight into it, my brother listened to music on the train all afternoon. That's our first sentence, nice and short. Mi hermano, my brother is mi hermano. He or she listened is going to be escuchó, because we've got the infinitive there, escuchar. You can write on top of there escuchar if that helps you in terms of conjugating it. We think about our preterite tense endings, what happened in the past, the preterite tense. Something happened once and it's over now. It's the preterite tense, not the imperfect tense. Hasta o, amos estaron. We're going to pick the he, she form, escuchó, ending in o. To music is going to be the word música. The U here does have an accent. Accents do matter a little bit in the sense that it counts as a minor mistake if you miss an accent, but it's the smallest mistake that you can make. It would take a lot of small mistakes for you to even lose just 1 mark. So don't stress about losing, missing an accent and thinking you're going to lose a mark. It would take a lot of minor mistakes to add up to making sort of lose a mark. We'll talk about the mark scheme in a second. You don't need to have perfection to get full marks. So if you know the accent, if you know where it goes, put it in there. But it does not, make a big deal, or it's not the end of the world if you miss an accent. So música on the train, en el tren. Literally in the train, we say sort of en means on, in, or by. So there we go. On the train. All afternoon, we're going to say all the afternoon, or the entire afternoon. We're going to say toda. I'm saying toda here, the word for all. It's ending in a here because it's feminine, because la tarde, the noun for the afternoon, is feminine. So la tarde is the afternoon or the evening. So mi hermano escuchó música en el tren toda la tarde, ending in a there. This is adjective agreements. If you put an o there, it's going to be another sort of minor mistake, and it would take quite a lot of minor mistakes for you to lose a mark. But again, try and be as accurate, as perfect as you can, and then you sort of try your best and see what happens in terms of the mark scheme. Okay, I will prepare another tense here off the bat. This is the I form, but it's the will future tense. It's what sort of will happen in the future. We keep the infinitive. Preparar. It's a cognate. It looks very similar in sort of Spanish and English. Preparar. Prepararé. I will prepare. Prepararé. Just sound it out to make sure you've spelled it correctly. So I will prepare, that E with the accent, and we keep the infinitive in the will future sort of tense, in that tense. A meal is like we say a food. Una comida is literally a meal. Una comida for my family. The recipient of this meal, of this gift, of this thing will be my family. So we use the word para. We don't use por for in this case because it's a recipient. We're going to use para. That's the difference between para and por. Para is used for recipients of things, and not for other things, but one use of para is for recipients of things. So para mi familia, for my family. No accents, easy there. Tonight, 2 words in Spanish. We're going to say this night. Esta noche. And noche is also feminine, so it ends in E, but it's feminine. So we say esta, not este. Esta noche. Good. I will prepare a meal for my family tonight. A little tip for you: use all the space you've got on the page. So spread out your sort of work and your words. Or use sort of both lines you get in the exam, and spread out your answer. Okay. Next, my friends and I. Nice and easy. Mis amigos. Make sure we're saying mis and not just me. It's more than one. This pronoun has to agree. Mis amigos is that possession, my friends. Mis amigos y yo. We hate, odiamos, from the verb odiar. A lot of you would not maybe know the verb odiar. You would know odio. I would hope all of you know odio. We can work backwards. What is the infinitive? Most infinitives in Spanish are AR infinitives. If you had to guess, make it up. Odiar is going to be your infinitive. We work backwards. O is the present tense I form, just like we have hablo, and we all know that hablo, the infinitive is hablar, just like that. Odio becomes odiar. And then in the we form, just the present tense endings, because it's we hate, or my friends and I, we hate in the present tense, becomes odiamos, spelled like that. So mis amigos y yo odiamos. Las and the facilities is instalaciones, like the word installations in English. Instalaciones, no double letter there. Las instalaciones. And in our school, I can say nuestra escuela or maybe nuestro instituto. there are commonly 3 words for school. We've got colegio, insti or instituto, and we've got escuela. If you're going to use escuela, make sure we say en nuestra, ending in A, because escuela ends in A is feminine. Just be careful, masculine and feminine in Spanish, which obviously doesn't exist in English. Okay, I used to live in a small town when I was younger. I used to live, this is your imperfect tense. Some of you could say or might say solía vivir. Just to mention here, solía vivir, if you put this into Google Translate, I used to live, it's probably going to tell you solía vivir. This means, it does mean I used to live. Soler is to usually do something. So it's saying, I usually used to live, right? I usually lived, really. Or I used to usually live, because solia is the imperfect tense, but vivir is not. I would always use the imperfect tense properly, conjugate vivir itself. You would probably still get the mark and get away with saying solia vivir, but it's a lot more natural to just say vivia in this case, because it's an I verb, vivia with the accent on the I. Vivir, ia, ias, ia, iamos, ias, ian, your imperfect tense er and ir endings. So vivia, I used to live. Those 4 words, it's just vivia in Spanish, 1 word in Spanish, 4 words in English. We don't have a word for saying used to, it's all one thing, it's all the imperfect tense. So vivia en un pueblo is the word for town. Pueblo is town or village. Pequeño, small. Wouldn't really be able to use another word for small, just pequeño there is fine. When I was younger, all of you should know with the imperfect tense, cuando era, we could say pequeño again. I would say cuando era pequeño, or cuando era más joven, or you could probably just say joven as well. But we're saying when I was younger, yeah, we would say más joven. If I was to just say cuando era joven, that's when I was young. But we want to say younger, so we're saying more young, más joven. Good. So just double check, Vivia, en un pueblo pequeño cuando era pequeño o más joven. Yeah, good. And last but not least, I usually get up. Here is where we can use the verb soler that I mentioned earlier, which means to usually do something. You could get away with saying usualmente or normalmente, but I'm going to stick with the verb soler. I'm going to say suelo. Suelo is I usually do something. It's stem changing. So we've got soler. The O here becomes a UE. So it becomes suelo. Okay, it's stem changing. I could say normalmente, but I'm going to stick with suelo. To get up is levantarme. This is reflexive. So suelo levantarme, to get up and out of bed, levantarme. It's reflexive, so it has to end in me. Obviously, normally reflexive verbs end in se, but when we conjugate them to say sort of the I form, it's still the infinitive, but it's suelo levantarme versus levantarse. Suelo levantarme a las is how we say sort of the time, at a certain time, a las. 9 is nueve. You could say 9 like that, but just to always be safe, just say nueve, write out in letters or in words. A las nueve in the morning, de la mañana, with the accent on the first end, isn't it? Yeah, de la mañana. On weekends, en los fines de semana. Literally in the ends of week, on the weekends or on weekends. With this de here, we're saying 9 o'clock belongs to either the morning or the afternoon or the evening. I'm saying de la mañana, 9 o'clock of the morning. You couldn't say por la mañana, it wouldn't make as much sense. You probably would get away with it in the exam, but yeah, de la mañana is fine, or you could again, might get away with saying por. Okay, and that's how we're doing that. Nice and quick. Obviously, I've taken a bit of time doing this slowly, but realistically, for most of you, higher tier students, you can do this in like 4 or 5 minutes max. Should not take you very long. The full writing exam is like an hour and 10 minutes, I believe. It's quite a long paper. It's a very long exam. You will have extra time. All of you, higher tier students, all of you will have extra time because you'll be done early. You'll have written the 90-word question, the 150-word question. You've done the translation at the start. It's going to be done nice and early. Use the extra time to go back and check. But realistically, it's not a very complicated question, in my opinion, at least. We're looking out for different tenses. We're looking out for different people. It's not just I, it's my brother, it's we, it's my friends. And just be careful of different tenses. We've got like the present tense and the future tense, the imperfect tense. If, for example, there's a word you don't know, like facilities, you might not know that word. Just have a guess, make it up, and you might still get, you might not lose lots of marks if you are close enough or whatever. In terms of how it's marked, so 10 marks, you might think it's strictly 2 marks per sentence, but it's not. You get, the text is split into 15 sections, so every couple of words is a different section. So 15, maybe my brother listened to music or something like that. Where across the entire 5 sentences is 15 sections. You get a tick for every section you get nearly correct or correct. And a certain number of ticks will get you a certain number of marks. So for example, if you get 15 out of 15, you might get 5 marks for conveying your message. There's another 5 marks for your knowledge of vocabulary. So it's called specifically rendering the original meaning of the English, and then 5 marks for knowledge of vocabulary and grammar. So as I said, 15 sections, number of sections you get correct correlates to the number of the sort of meaning marks out of 5. And then on top of that, you will get another set of 5 marks depending on how perfect, how good your grammar and your major and minor errors are. Have a look at the sample assessment materials and look at the mark scheme on there. First off, a full example from AQA. Obviously, this question is just written by me as an example, but hopefully you get the gist. It's marked a little bit weirdly, but try your best. It's not too difficult of a question. And think about, you can still get marks even if you have small mistakes in there. As long as the meaning is clear, for example, a native speaker, if they were to read your Spanish sentences, would it make sense to them? That's kind of all that matters. In terms of what sort of correlates or what constitutes a minor or a major mistake, things like spelling, small spelling mistakes, like, for example, the word for restaurant, if you maybe spell it as, I don't know, like restaurante with a O, that would be just a small spelling mistake, would not be the end of the world, it would be just a minor mistake. Things like gender, as we said, things like la noche, el noche, things like that, small mistakes. We talk about major mistakes, we're talking about verbs, so sort of the wrong verbs, wrong tenses, wrong endings. A lot of that is going to be sort of your major mistakes, maybe with vocabulary, using just obviously the wrong word, whether it's the wrong verb or the wrong pronoun or the wrong adjective or whatever. Those are going to be more for major mistakes. There's lots of minor mistakes that you're allowed to have. Specifically, if I just go down here and read off here, AQA does not require perfection for full marks. So you can have lots of, maybe missing accents and still be able to get in the top mark band for your sort of grammar and your knowledge of grammar. But if you have lots of maybe incorrect accents where it changes the meaning of the word, then that's where you can start to have losing marks and have an impact on your mark for knowledge of vocabulary and grammar. Sometimes, for example, the example I like to use is with hablo. If I say hablo versus hablo, that accent there makes a difference to the meaning of the word. Hablo with the accent is he or she spoke. Hablo without the accent is just I spoke. So be really careful. Or just I speak, sorry, in the present tense. Be careful about, accents can be sort of harm your communication. Okay, that's it in terms of the mark scheme. Let's have a look at these other two here. Both of these translations I've done in these respective videos. So this one here I've done in my AQA higher tier writing paper walkthrough that I did many, many months ago. And then this one here is in my sort of 2024 last minute tips video before the writing paper for last exam season. I'm just going to point out a few tricky things in these questions. You're welcome to screenshot and do the question yourself and look at the full answer in the video that it belongs to. But this one here, the hardest thing here is going to be I have just, because it's going to be, to say I have just done something, we use acabo. Acabo de plus the infinitive. So in this case, acabo de jugar. Acabo is a very sort of weird word. It means I have just in the present tense, but obviously saying I have just is referring to the past, but acabo is in present tense. Acabar de means to have just. Acabar on its own means to almost end something. But if I say acabar de, it's to have just done something. So acabo de, I have just, is that word there. We've got some more imperfect tense, etc., etc. That's going to be it for this video. Subscribe for more GCSE Spanish videos. Head to gcsespanish.com for resources and more things on my website. If you want to be taught by me or anyone else in my team, head to astarlanguages.com/tutoring for one-to-one lessons. Vale, adios.